Oh wait, it's that Ancap again, isn't it? I'm not going through that. I'm not going through that. I'm sorry, Isaac. Yeah, that's the Ancap. All right, I'll have to ignore you. We were having a really good discussion, okay, about how community is praxis, how public transport and being anti-car is actually a good thing and builds communities better, blah blah blah. Now we have the Ancap shitting on the table. JTVJ says, if you're going to the beach, should you compete with your friends to get there? No. All right. But imagine the beach is so scarce, so small that it can only accommodate one person. Then yes, you would have to compete with your friends to get there. And if you lose the competition, well, no beach for you, buddy. And in that analogy, you have a whole ass beach. It's just that everything's privatized except for one like piece of land that's only good for one person. Roman Vaughan Williams says to Isaac Clarke, the Ancap, I suggest you read Mutual Aid, A Factor of Evolution. It's not as good as Marx, but it might be where to start. Yeah, it's a good book. It's a response to social Darwinists, which I imagine maybe Isaac is social Darwinist. I have to come clean on something. So sometimes when I don't know what to say on stream, or when I want to spice things up, I pay Isaac to come in and chat. So Isaac is not even a real Ancap. He's a paid actor to trigger all the commies in chat. So, I mean, you can continue to talk to this canvas plant, this canvas paid, but he's doing it for my entertainment. Because he's trolling you, and he's doing a really good job at it. Hi, Rio. I agree, and B. Every good streamer needs a troll. I like Isaac Clarke, but I think he can do better. This is pretty low-level trolling. And B is making me realize that maybe I should lower the pay, Isaac. I'm sorry. You have to try harder. All right, we'll discuss the terms. Proctophile. Isaac, Proctophile is going to take your job soon. The beauty of competition, right? I'm paying Isaac quite a hefty amount of money to troll, but Proctophile is here, and he's gonna be discussing the terms and actually offer less or require less money than you, Isaac, and then you're gonna be forced to require less money from me than, like, even less than Proctophile does, until both of you in competition get less money from me because you've competed so hard against each other for my benefit. I love competition. Boy, do I love competition. For example, in Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker decreased state environmental staff's capacity in order to accelerate the approval time for a proposed development. Pursuing a race to the bottom philosophy in environmental politics allows states to foster economic growth, but has great consequences for the environment of that state. Like, for example, for the environment, Isaac, the best way to prevent large-scale pollution is self-defense. They break the NAP. God damn it. God damn it. All right. Corporations have shown to benefit from breaking the environment, from destroying the environment. It's in their interest to do it. That means, they can lower their expenses by not caring too much about the environment. And they've done it. What they do is that they go to states or countries where environmental policies are not even existent, so they can do the shit that they do, destroy the earth, and gaining from it. So, two things. You say that these environmental policies are ineffective, but they seem to drive away businesses. Kind of do something, right? Or else they wouldn't be driving away businesses who want to break the planet for profit. So they are doing something. They're not solving the whole issue, but they are helping in a way, right? I don't know. Plus, they break the NAP. Who enforces the NAP? Who enforces the NAP? Who enforces the NAP? Anyone can enforce the NAP. It's a tool to find out lawful behavior. To say otherwise is not to understand it. All right. So what you're saying is, might makes right. Might makes right, Isaac. That's what you're saying. And in a capitalist world, the mighty are the capitalists. The mighty are the ones who prefer destroying the environment for profits. Anyone can enforce the NAP. Some can enforce it more than others. You're literally Animal Farm. You're literally the pigs in Animal Farm. I want to liberate everyone. Everyone can enforce the NAP. But some can enforce it more than others, of course, because they own guns and militaries and soldiers. And to say, but force, though, is to justify force over truth. So you really believe that a capitalist corporation who benefits from profit, obviously, who has the possibility to force their way into more profits, will say, actually, we believe the truth. And because of the non-aggression principle, we respect your boundaries. We will not destroy the earth or destroy the environment. But Isaac, what if they don't believe in climate change? Or if they say they don't believe in climate change? Your claim to self-defense to them is null. Your claim to self-defense is ridiculous, right? They can just claim that they don't believe in climate change. So you're saying, oh, I'm defending myself from you destroying the environment. You're like, no, I'm not destroying the environment. Then what the fuck do you do? Do you still defend yourself? Then if you defend yourself, they'll see you defending their or attacking your property, and they'll enact the non-aggression principle against you because you're the aggressor in their head. Yeah, exactly, Lenore. And what would stop people from using force over truth? It's for truth, guys. The claim can be empirically verified. Pay attention to what you're saying to Canvas, because you're very close to justify something really bad because of my opinion and force, though. Yeah, but they don't give a fuck. Hello? I'm not justifying something really bad. You are. You're saying, all right, we're going to give power to corporations. A shit ton of power. And I believe that empirical claims will be not only accepted, but will be accepted to the point of risking profit to corporations whose main and sole goal is to make profit. Do you see how much faith you're putting in corporations? The only thing that stops corporations from destroying the planet in your worldview is your belief that they will adhere to truth. How pathetic. It's the belief that they will prioritize truth over profit. When has that ever happened? Isaac says, the NAP is a tool which shows who is the aggressor and who is the victim. By the NAP, victims have the right to defend themselves because it has been proven that they are victims. All right, but like, all right, Exxon, you are destroying the environment. I have the right to protect myself. I will destroy you. Good fucking luck, dude. So, all right, Isaac, listen to me now. The NAP can work in your anarcho-capitalist worldview if A, capitalists prioritize truth over profits, or B, if capitalists respect the right for you to protect yourself. Right? Is that it? Do you really believe 1 billion people will fight against 4 fat cats? Does your worldview rely on the threat of civil war? Dude, I promise, okay? If we live in an authoritarian hell, people will rise up. So we don't really have to worry about authoritarianism, because if there is authoritarianism, people will rise up. The protection of people's freedoms relies on honesty of corporations. If that doesn't work, it relies on the corporation's respect for your right to self-defense. And if that doesn't work, well, it relies on a civil war, taking down that corporation who's not accepting or respecting your right to self-defense by fighting against their own self-interest, which is their very essence, their purpose as a business. God, he's gonna shut up forever. Then it's gonna be the Proctophile. Proctophile. Okay, I'm gonna watch that one video, that 10-minute video. I'll do it. I'll watch the video because you said you'll shut up forever. This is this is. Oh yeah, it's true. I need to watch. I need to read on iPencil and B. I'm gonna watch that video by that Isaac. It's 10 minutes. We're gonna watch it, and he said that after that he will shut up forever if I'm not convinced.
No matter how old are you or your current condition. And the best part, sleep like a baby, pee like a teenager and have sex like a man, within a few short weeks from today. There is no doubt the $390 billion prostate care industry does not want you to watch this video and discover this extraordinary prostate health solution. So go watch a free exclusive video where we reveal how you can permanently reverse the one true cause of all your prostate issues and reclaim the prostate of a 20-year-old. Watch it now before it's taken down.
Gonna be taken down, guys. So the Ancap video or the prostate shrinking video? Ah, fuck. What do we do, guys? You know what the worst part is? Like, watching it completely probably made it so I'm gonna get the same type of ads now. All right, so my boy Isaac in chat, the Ancap, said that if I watch this whole video, he's gonna leave us alone with his Ancap shit for forever. And I agreed to the terms of the deal, and we both know that according to the NAP, we cannot betray the terms of the deal. We stay truthful. We stay anarchists.
The coming centuries would see the rise of republics in France and the Americas. It was these republics that would see the transition away from classical liberalism and towards modern liberalism. The core ideological change here was that modern liberalism was less interested in natural rights and more interested in human rights. That distinction is important. Natural rights are those which man has in nature and in the absence of a society or state, the idea being that neither government nor society should infringe on man's natural conditions any more than necessary. Natural rights are objective and hierarchical. It's not
Natural rights are objective and hierarchical. I mean, I'd like some more explanation on that for sure. So I guess they're going to go back to that, right?
difficult to figure out what man can and can't do in a state of nature. And since the natural world is hierarchical and competitive, so too are societies based on its laws.
That's the thing I don't like. The whole idea of human nature. All right, so this is how the world works when people are individuals in nature without the social component. This is a really bad exercise because I don't believe you can look at you can't disassociate humanity from its social aspect. Humanity evolved socially. It never happened that people were all by themselves and they were doing this stick is mine, as is your right to have it, and they would do their own thing. We needed cooperation. We evolved cooperatively. But I don't like the idea of the state of nature being able to justify anything. The idea of a human without society, to me, wouldn't be human. The idea, like it's fallacious in itself.
Nature. And since the natural world is hierarchical and competitive, so too are societies based on its laws. Societies
are based on cooperation. the very idea of societies, people being together, is cooperative. It's not competitive.
Human rights, however, are things to which you are entitled just by being human. This is far more subjective and inherently egalitarian. After all, every human is just as human as every other, so is entitled to the same rights. But what are those rights? Unlike with natural rights, you can't just look out the window and find out.
Also, I don't know what he means by natural rights, but I feel like rights are only relevant insofar as they can be enforced, right? Right? What's the point of having natural rights if, for example, this person does not care if the stick is yours or not? Your natural right is to have that stick. If that person doesn't give a fuck and has the might to just disregard that right, then that right is not really relevant. At least I don't believe so. There needs to be enforcement, or there needs to be like either it is like through a community, through a person, through an army or whatever. If a right is not enforced, then that right is kind of ridiculous to even claim to justify, right? This stick is mine. If this person says who, and this person says nature, it's my natural right to have this stick. This guy's gonna go, all right, but I want that stick, and I don't think nature is gonna care that much if, or your natural right, I don't have to respect it, and this person loses their stick. What's the point of having a natural right if it can't be respected? No, like I'm saying that this results in might makes right, Isaac. Isaac is saying, you're literally just saying might makes right, ignoring the fact that the guy is not explaining it here. No, the fact that your claim to that stick is on a abstract right that is not enforced by anything or anyone or any community, or that right is irrelevant. You might as well not call it a right. And in that case, if that doesn't happen, then we go back to might makes right. To whoever has the biggest guns or the biggest stature can get the stick if both want them. And all that considering the fact that this never happens. There will always be a body of people that will enforce rights. And again, it's usually the people who have the most power, of course. It's just, who do we empower? In that case, being there's no social units at all, it's just individuals. The people who have power are the people who are the strongest.
And can't do in a state of nature. And since the natural world is hierarchical and competitive,
are
things inherently egalitarian. After all, every human is just as human as every other, so is entitled to the same rights. But what are those rights? Unlike with natural rights, you can't just look out the window and find out. Luckily, human rights' egalitarianism provides the solution. Only a democracy.
Sorry for pausing again, but the idea that natural rights are objective is just not true. If we just take he didn't define like natural rights good enough for us to compare and contrast. But here, if this guy puts the stick on the floor and stops holding it, is the stick still his? Is it still his property? Right? This person could say yes or no. This can be debated, right? I don't think it's objective to say that I pick up the stick, I say it's mine, I put it on the floor. How long can it be on the floor before it's not mine anymore? Is it mine for the rest of my life? What if the stick was taken from a tree that's on someone else's property, but it's now on my property? Did I steal it? Can I still call it mine? What if it fell on my property, but it was my neighbor's tree? Is it mine? Can I claim it as mine? All these questions are not answered objectively, and they can't be. So the whole idea that you could just look out the window and determine that this stick is this person's stick as long as they hold it, and if it's on the floor, then it's not theirs anymore. Well, you could still say, if I'm not holding it, it's mine. But what if you leave it on the floor for 30 years and never touch it? Is it still yours? You can't just objectively verify that information outside.
Egalitarianism provides the solution. Only a democracy with a broad franchise could possibly meet the egalitarian requirements of human rights. So why not just let people vote on their rights? That way, whatever those rights may be, everyone will have them equally. And if there's ever a problem, they can just vote for new rights. In practice, modern liberalism was characterized by skepticism of hierarchies like religion and monarchy.
JTVJ says, it makes sense. They link a video that's so Western and white-centric too. So many people have said that this is Western and white-centric, but they've been making jokes about anime in Japan for the longest time. They are so opened to the world. They keep talking about anime in Japan.
Well, it supported democracy in the welfare state. Thomas Paine is an excellent example of the transition from classical to modern liberalism. In his Common Sense, Paine viciously attacks the idea of monarchy and supports the creation of an independent American republic. While in Rights of Man, he makes a similar but slightly less radical argument in favor of the French Revolution, one that's not altogether hostile to monarchy, but does include a major section advocating for social welfare and mass education programs. The next and final form of liberalism is the kind that most of us live under today: neoliberalism. Neoliberalism began to take shape in the decades leading up to the World Wars, and was fully realized by the end of World War II. Neoliberal society is very different from the kind John Locke envisioned with kings and natural rights. Neoliberalism is republican, highly democratic, and totally replaces natural rights with human rights. Neoliberal societies are also either secular or outright atheistic. But the thing is, as much as some wish it did, history did not end with neoliberalism. Many liberal states tried to go further, and that put the liberals in an awkward position. The process we've seen play out here is one where liberal thought moves away from natural rights and monarchy and towards a system of human rights and democracy. This was the natural and inevitable conclusion of following liberalism's initial premises to their conclusion. Liberalism was never primarily interested in natural rights. It was primarily interested in justifying its state. Remember, Locke already liked his new monarchs and their government. He just wanted to legitimize them. For most of its history, liberalism championed the expansion of the state, with the only real limit being liberalism's love of property.
Wait, actually, that's true.
But once that limit to state power was met, the state's only remaining path to expansion was by transitioning into a new order like socialism or fascism, which is exactly what it tried to do. The states that liberals once championed were now trying to escape their grasp. Some even succeeded. Now, the only way the liberals could maintain or regain their control was by fighting against or even reversing the historical process that they once led. All of a sudden, the liberals found themselves in bed with the political right. This is why socialists have been accusing the liberals of being reactionary.
That's me! Hey, that's us!
For more than a century. And you know what? They're right. With the state at or beyond its liberal limits, only reactionary politics can keep the liberals in control. Now, it's not an original critique of reactionaries to point out that past conditions are what led to present ones, so any successful reaction would only recreate the conditions that led to the very present they're trying to abolish. This critique is what finally allows us to talk about libertarianism.
I don't think I disagree that much on the critique of liberalism. I don't think that neoliberalism started after the Second World War. I think it started after the 70s, but perhaps in the same kind of maybe it needed to revert back so that liberals don't go too much to socialism, which would mean healthcare. I believe perhaps in this idea.
Before they had their ideology, proto-libertarians believed themselves to be some kind of liberal. After all, didn't liberals also believe in natural rights? But what the libertarians missed is that the liberal support for natural rights was only secondary to their primary belief in the state. That is the key philosophical difference between libertarianism and liberalism. Liberalism places the state first and believes in natural rights, human rights, democracy, or whatever else only second, and insofar as it legitimizes their state. Libertarianism is the opposite. It believes in natural rights first, and only tolerates the state insofar as it does not infringe on those rights.
The whole idea that natural rights are objective and is unless they go more into it, is kind of ridiculous. And the whole idea that rights can, because they're natural, objective, and hierarchical, people will respect them. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's this weird understanding of what rights are, and instead of seeing them as enforced by either an authority, a person, or a group of people that can be an authority as well, they see it as something natural, something that's like in the air, right? Something like ephemeral, like not ephemeral, but like metaphysical. But rights are things that are enforced, that need to be enforced. Yeah, JTVJ says, the word natural feels good, and it's broad and general, so it can justify anything. That's the danger of it, for sure.
Some libertarians even go as far as to believe that the state is inherently a violation of natural rights.
By the way, yeah, Stifled Voice says, my natural right is to obey gravity. There you go. That's a natural right I can agree with.
And calls for its complete abolition. This helps explain why much of libertarianism is so influenced by anti-liberal and usually anarchist thinkers like Lysander Spooner. Because libertarians are not fighting to defend or reform the Lysander Spooner.
Whoops. That's us. And you see down there, that's Isaac right now. This is us. This is him. You can even tell by the eyes, except the brain is smaller.
Because libertarians are not fighting to defend or reform the liberal democratic order of the last 300 years. They're fighting to end it. So if liberals are reactionaries, what does that make the libertarians? Well, before we can get into that, I need to say something that will upset both libertarians and their enemies. Real libertarianism has never been tried. Libertarians may LARP and say that medieval Iceland, Ireland, or random cities in Renaissance Italy or Germany were libertarian. But that's silly. I doubt that any libertarian is genuinely trying to turn their society into medieval Iceland or a province of the Holy Roman Empire. The early United States was not libertarian either. It was just radically liberal, as is evidenced by the fact that the only thing the American state ever did was expand. Even the Constitution, that supposed limiter of federal power, never successfully limited the American government. In fact, the Constitution itself increased the size of the federal government by replacing the more restrictive Articles of Confederation that came before it. The claim that the Constitution did, or was even supposed to limit the power of the American government is highly suspect. Libertarianism's enemies, meanwhile, like to cite Russia right after the collapse of
You could argue that, the American state is like the byproduct of, libertarian ideas. The idea that, libertarianly, some people will get together and then force others to, abide by their rules and their laws through the threat of force, which just creates a government, of course. Is that JoJo music? I don't know. I don't watch anime.
the Soviet Union as an example of a failed attempt at libertarianism, but I'm highly skeptical of that claim too. Personally, I feel like a totalitarian command economy existing mere moments before the creation of the supposed libertarian paradise may have rigged the situation at least a little bit. I mean, it's not like the people who were planning the economy before ended up owning all of the assets after privatization or anything. So if it's true that libertarianism has never been realized, highly skeptical of that claim too. Personally, I feel like a totalitarian command economy existing mere moments before the creation of the supposed libertarian paradise may have rigged the situation at least a little bit. I mean, it's not like the people who were planning the economy before ended up owning all of the assets after privatization or anything.
No, they were... No, not the Soviet Union as libertarian. The Soviet Union, the post-Soviet Russia as libertarian. And the problem this guy has with calling post-Soviet Russia as libertarian is the fact that some people had more assets than others. Is that it? Is that it?
Paradise may have rigged the situation at least a little bit. I mean, it's not like the people who were planning the economy before ended up owning all of the assets after privatization or anything.
So the reason why it wasn't libertarian is because people who were running the planned economy during the USSR didn't get the got the assets after it was privatized. If the assets were given to, people who weren't at the head of the USSR, would that be different? I'm not sure.
So if it's true that libertarianism has never been realized, then that means there's another interesting difference between it and liberalism. Since liberals are trying to maintain current conditions or revert back to previous ones, then that means there's another interesting...
You think the state is necessary to protect the individual from threats? I think the state is the threat. We're not the same. And what I'm asking here is, who protects the individual from threats? Right? Anarcho-communists believe that the threats can be fought against as communes, as very, very I don't know how to say it, tightly knit communities, right? Where everybody's equal, everybody has the same interests. But who will protect the individuals from threats in Kapistan? Is it other people as well? But what if other people benefit from the threats that you get, right? If you're threatened by some things, let's say threatened by starvation, and some people benefit from it, they have everything to, they have all the excuses in the world to encourage these threats on you. They won't protect you from it. They'll encourage them, because the more threatened you are by starvation, by poverty, by all sorts of things, the more some people can take advantage of you. Let's see. I think he broke.
Interesting difference between it and liberalism. Since liberals are trying to maintain current conditions or revert back to previous ones, they're reactionaries. But libertarians are trying to create something completely new. So in spite of being on the political right, libertarians are not reactionaries. They are that rarest of political breeds. Right-wing revolutionaries. Libertarians...
Wait. Isaac, did you say that you weren't revolutionary? That Ancaps are not revolutionaries? Hold on. Let's go back.
Rarest of political breeds. Right-wing revolutionaries.
Right-wing revolutionaries, unless it's a joke.
That rarest of political breeds. Right-wing revolution.
It has to be a joke? I imagine it's a joke. They have the "I'm loving it" nuke. Right? They have to be joking. Gib Cat Girl, I don't know that reference. And the katana, I guess it's a weeb thing. This is owning up to I mean, it has to be a joke, because that's owning up to the fact that, it's the big corporations that are gonna do the revolution, or is gonna be funded by big corporations. I don't get it. Yeah. Someone calling themselves right-wing revolutionary. Sounds like some really fashy shit. Yeah. Also a description of fascism. But the NAP, yeah, Godspeed. Yeah, the NAP, guys.
Revolutionaries. Libertarians have a fundamentally right-wing view of the world. One could even say that they reject the liberal and leftist belief in the equality of man.
People aren't equal, guys. When people are equal, they're miserable. When people are unequal, they're happy. Of course I read everything you say.
And liberal perspective, if man is equal and a free society results in unequal outcomes, then some injustice must have occurred. It follows then that the state will have some obligation to equalize its subjects to bring them back to their equal natures. But to libertarians,
this whole thing betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of what communism is. I mean, for the state, it's like, I'm not an authoritarian communist, so I don't give a fuck about the Soviet Union. But earlier he showed like the anarcho-communists, and this idea here.
And leftist belief in the equality of man. From both the leftist and liberal perspective, if man is equal and a free society results in unequal outcomes, then some injustice must have occurred.
If man is equal, which I hope that everyone agrees on that. If some people are more equal than others, then that's authoritarianism, or that's at the very least hierarchy. But the whole idea of equality, in this case, being enforced by the state, because listen.
And a free society results in unequal outcomes, then some injustice must have occurred.
So the idea that if a society has unequal outcomes, some injustice must have occurred, I believe, is not automatically right, but it can be a symptom of actually an injustice in society. The thing is, a lot of people will try to answer to that equality by trying to, reform equality back, right? But communists, leftists, say that what creates inequality is not some kind of unfair mechanism, that happens throughout the process. It's that the system itself is unfair. So it's not about, trying to force the system to be fair. It's about actually rejecting the system that's unfair and building a new one that's actually fair. For example, take a anarcho-communist commune. Anarcho-communism doesn't have a government and doesn't force people to be equal. The fact that, for example, everything is up to people's, according to each according to their needs, to each according to their I've been streaming for 5 hours, okay? But you get what I'm saying. The idea is not to force equality in an unequal system. That's reformists who do that. The idea is to adopt an equal system, one that's not based on exploitation, one that will not enforce inequality among men.
It follows then that the state will have some obligation to equalize its subjects to bring them back to their equal natures. But to libertarians, this...
Again, it's not about equalizing the subjects. It's about creating a system that will not force subjects to be unequal. Of course, if your system makes it so that some people get better than others, and you're like, actually, we're equal, well, this might happen, right? You might have to penalize the ones who are doing great, I guess. But the thing is, the issue here is not this person, and this is not the right approach to take. the approach to take is to stop whatever system that allows these people to do better than them. Because when people do better than them, these people can exploit them and can do pretty much whatever the fuck they want with them. That's our criticism of capitalism. And this betrays a misunderstanding of our criticism of capitalism and our goals in promoting equality.
Its subjects to bring them back to their equal natures. But to libertarians, this forced equality looks like a violation of natural rights. When a libertarian looks at the natural world, he sees individuals within the same species as unequal and able to organize themselves into hierarchies. So if that's true, from the libertarian perspective, the belief in equality will always lead to communism and slavery, because equal beings do not need to be free.
Belief in equality equals slavery. We're all pro-slavery. People who love equality are pro-slavery. Let's listen to that again.
So if that's true, from the libertarian perspective, the belief in equality will always lead to communism and slavery, because equal beings do not need to be free. An equal man would be miserable in a state of freedom, torn between the contradiction of his equal nature and unequal conditions.
This person has no idea what leftism is about. No idea whatsoever. The idea that the conditions here is a product of a system that we're trying to fight. We're not saying that everyone is equal perfectly, but we're saying that some inequalities are exacerbated by a system which promotes these inequalities. We're not saying that everyone is exactly perfectly the same and that everyone is perfectly equal. We're saying that any system that will exacerbate these inequalities and make sure that the people who are more privileged in some ways become 10 times more privileged and can prey upon the disprivilege of others is unethical and will create a lot of human misery.
To libertarians, freedom is only possible and always necessary to man if he is an unequal being. In other words, if man is unequal, he must be free, and man can only be free because he is unequal.
This is ridiculous as well. Inequality. If some people have more privileges than others, to a point where someone, to even be able to live, needs to obey the orders of someone else, that's not freedom. It's freedom for some people, but it's not freedom for a shit ton of other people. If you mean freedom for the privileged, that is true. I will agree with you. That is absolutely true. If you build a society where the privileged can have other people work for them as they own the means of production and, I don't know, manage them, then these guys are basically the servants of the one who manages the means of production and owns them. It's freedom for the guy who owns the means of production. It's not freedom for the people who have to obey the commands of the person in charge.
When perfect is in the air, you can feel it.
That's a boring
Presenting
ad.
The new.
Fuck that ad. Strongly disagree.
Even libertarianism's supposedly left-wing positions are the result of right-wing thought. Sure, libertarians want to decriminalize vices, including hard drugs and prostitution, but that isn't because they're bleeding hearts trying to protect libertines, or atheists trying to rebel against God. Libertarians just think that those people have the right to destroy themselves, and feel no obligation to intervene. This is unlike the liberal state, whose ability to legalize vice is limited. The liberal state's welfare systems means that it will bear the cost of a population full of alcoholics, drug addicts, mental and physical incompetence, and other kinds of dependence. This forces the...
I have a question, Isaac. Let's say someone is deeply troubled, right, and wants to commit suicide. Should they have the natural right to do it, or should you try to stop them? So suicidal people should be allowed to kill themselves. Or we should let them kill themselves. People, but like just for that idea itself, don't you see how fucked up that is? Don't you see that, you know, suicidality can be driven by external choice, like external factors? It can come from like economic anxiety, poverty, social alienation. Same thing for substance abuse. In your mind, we should let that happen. What's the alternative? Keeping them 24/24 under surveillance in a cell? Maybe answer to their basic needs. See? Do you see how your answers are fucking stupid, dude? You see how like psychopathic everybody thinks you are because of those kinds of answers? Someone comes to you and says they want to kill themselves, and you try to convince them otherwise, and they're like, okay, listen, I'm not convinced. I feel a lot of economic anxiety. I feel lonely. I don't have anything to live for in life. And you're like, that sucks, dude. That sucks, dude. But it's your choice. It's your natural right. Meanwhile, the Chad anarchist goes, all right, let's try to develop a system. Let's fight for a system that will provide for your basic needs. It will provide for community feeling instead of this alienation that capitalism keeps pushing. And B says Canada is trying to get people to commit suicide. We've legalized assisted suicide for some cases, which I agree with. For some cases, it's for example, you have some chronic illness that like actually hurts and we can't fix it. That sucks. And we can't force you to suffer. But the thing is, social illness and medical illness are very different. Medical illness, like there's up to a point we can't really help you. And like, if you suffer so much that you don't want to live anymore and you're going to suffer for the rest of your life, yeah, sure. But if you want to kill yourself because of, you know, mental issues, mainly caused by, you know, by a lot of what we call capitalism, then dude, we have to stop it. We have to stop capitalism. It's killing us. It's killing our brains. It's killing our mental health. Yeah. It's a very sad ideology that you keep proving to everyone that is sadder and sadder by the minute.
The liberal state to try and stop its people from becoming dependents in the first place. The liberal state can allow some vices, but no more than it can pay the negative consequences for. That is the force preventing a liberal society from becoming totally free. Libertarianism, on the other hand, doesn't have this problem, because it's opposed to using the state to take care of its citizens. In the absence of state welfare systems, a libertarian society can be totally free from all restraints on vices. As far as the libertarians are concerned, the question of self-destructive dependence will sort itself out. Those who can responsibly use vices will enjoy them, while those who can't won't remain a problem for long. A libertarian society is set up—
Whoa, what?
Will sort itself out. Those who can responsibly use vices will enjoy them, while those who can't won't remain a problem for long.
They'll die? Isaac, your response to people who suffer from substance abuse is they'll just fucking die and not be a problem anymore? Are you fucking serious? Let's listen to it again.
The question of self-destructive dependence will sort itself out. Those who can responsibly use vices will enjoy them, while those who can't won't remain a problem for long.
Those who can't won't remain a problem for long. Dude.
A libertarian society is set up so there are no barriers to individuals realizing their potential. If an individual's potential is constructive, then they will succeed, and others capable of following their example will succeed too. But if an individual's potential is self-destructive, then they will be allowed to meet their fate. Libertarianism
Meet their fate. Do you see how... He's not done yet. Okay.
To its right-wing interest.
Social degeneracy? You gonna tell me you're not a fascist? wait, hold on. Like, maybe he's gonna criticize the whole idea of degeneracy. If not, like, the whole, the term degenerate is fascist, and people have been pretty sensitive to you being a fascist so far.
Libertarianism takes a Darwinian, natural rights approach to its right-wing interest of limiting social degeneracy and maximizing upwards potential.
Eliminating social degeneracy. Ooh. You just linked me a fascist video, Isaac. Yeah. Same word, different terms. This guy sent me this video thinking, if you're not convinced by that, I will shut the fuck up forever. I'm not very convinced about eliminating social degeneracy by letting their fate come to them.
So in spite of some appearances, libertarianism is a fundamentally right-wing ideology.
Yeah. Despite its appearances. No, it's pretty right-wing, we can tell.
Sometimes ally itself with the social left, but libertarianism does not do this because it supports self-destructive lifestyles. Libertarianism simply believes that in the absence of state intervention, social issues will sort themselves out. So let's sum all of this up. The key differences between liberalism and libertarianism are that liberalism prioritizes the state over natural rights, or may not believe in natural rights at all. Meanwhile, libertarianism always believes in natural rights, and always prioritizes them over the state.
Maybe we could look into natural rights and see exactly what it is and how objective it is. I'd love to know more about natural rights.
Under political conditions, liberalism is a reactionary ideology aligned with the political right, while libertarianism is a revolutionary ideology. That, while fundamentally right-wing, is also anti-liberal, and because of that, is very much capable of cooperating with the political left.
Sounds like fascist to me. Sounds a lot like fascist to me.
And that's libertarianism versus liberalism.
Right,
this video was funded by a secret camarilla of radical libertarians as a part of their quest to end the global liberal democratic order and replace it with their own market anarchist order, including Handsome AJ and Josiah. And by this video's sponsor.
That was 100% fascist. That ending though, that was fascist. All right, we watched the video. And from now on, Isaac is contractually not allowed to talk. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you very much. I'm not very prone to accepting fascist arguments, like eradicating social degeneracy. It's not something that's all right. To sum it up, closing the Ancap the Ancap debate. First, understanding that people's choices are a result of their environmental forces, conditions that they have not had really any say in it. So that means education. That means when I say education, doesn't mean just like in schools. It means at home as well. The presence of their parents in their lives. The presence of other people in their life. Was it just their parents, or did they have a community that raised them? There's so many elements that will determine someone's potential in a way, right? And if that person grows up in an environment that that doesn't unlock or make that potential even available, or makes it really hard to attain, then some people in this chat will say that, well, they'll get what they deserve. But understanding that most people, if you don't believe in God, you have to understand that people's choices, that people's beliefs are a product of their environment. It doesn't come from a soul, it comes from a brain that is only fed solely through external forces, external variables. Your beliefs, your ideas, your choices, everything that you do is a product of everything that you've been taught, everything that you've absorbed through culture, through media, through YouTube, through me. And if you believe that some people deserve better conditions and some others deserve to fucking die because that's what they deserve, if the degenerates deserve to die because they don't want to help themselves, if you believe that, you are yourself a degenerate. The whole idea of freedom to these people is, well, it's the whole idea of negative versus positive freedom. I like the fact that this video was understanding that freedom is often about unlocking potential, right? And without the government to reduce people's potential, people can do anything, and they can hone in their potential, work on it, and become the better version of themselves. But potential isn't only in, like, unlocking your own potential isn't only done through, you know, not having the government stop you from doing stuff. It's also through having the resources to do what you want to maximize that potential. So, giving everybody education unlocks potential for everyone. Giving everyone, you know, the means to survive, just to eat, unlocks their potential to do whatever the fuck they want with themselves. That is freedom. If to you freedom means, all right, well, the government won't be there to decide if you can drink yourself to death or not, if that to you is freedom, you have to reconsider everything. Please do. Your version of freedom is very, very sad. They've been banned with the through the contract. I haven't banned them in real life, like in chat. They can breach our contract that we made. But I trust and I have faith in the truth, which was the contract that we made. I wonder if he might have left. He probably left. Oh, he asked a question. Okay. All right, he broke the NAP, but you know what? I'm a graceful... I don't have authority over you, because it's anarchist, but I will allow you to break the NAP, because I can do that. In a way, I have authority over you. Isaac says, here's the thing, with which I will depart. How will you pay for that? Will it be forced, government, or completely voluntary? Ancap. The whole idea that the only way of getting services or commodities is through paying them is capitalist realism, which I would encourage you to look into. The whole idea that the only way to, for example, get healthcare is to pay for it, or to get food is to pay for it, to get, you know, transportation is to pay for it, belies the whole idea that everything needs to be contractual in your worldview. It doesn't need to be. That's the whole point of anarcho-communism. It's the whole thing, the whole idea that things don't need to be contractual. We don't need to calculate the worth of everything to pay for it. I can work in a hospital, and that's my job. I work at a hospital because I want everyone to be healthy. And after I work in the hospital, I can go in the grocery store. Why can I go to the grocery store? I can do it without paying. The thing is, by going to the grocery store and, you know, doing my groceries without paying, the workers who work at the grocery store can go to the hospital without paying either. And we're all doing these jobs not for money, just so that we can live decently. And I feel like that's in itself a quite a motivating factor. to just live decently. Why will people collect trash? Because we don't want trash to, be plentiful in our streets. People will do jobs with the expectation, they will do jobs freely with the expectations of having the rest of the services from their community for free. So I'll answer Isaac's question, and again, he violates the NAP. Someone call the NAP police. Someone call the Ancap police. Ew, French. Oh, no, not France. France, no. Godspeed, it's not France, it's French. Isaac says, so under Ancap, consent is irrelevant because people will just do things and nobody can do anything against them as long as they don't physically hurt each other's or hurt others. Under Ancap, consent is irrelevant? Wrong? Because people will just do things? Yeah, people will do things, yeah, that's what people do. And nobody can do anything against them as long as they don't physically hurt others. Do anything against them? The idea that there's no reason for people to hurt, or there might still be reason for people to hurt each other in anarcho-communist society, but the idea that the needs of everyone are met and economic anxiety no longer exists makes it so that the motivation for physical harm is reduced to, I would imagine, almost zero. You might still have physical harm in terms of crimes of passion, I think they're called, but those can be attended to and sorted out by the community. There's still a how do you call it? Self-defense in an Ancap society. But the self-defense is enacted by the community together. If someone starts beating the shit out of someone else, the community can step in and stop them. Hey, he's trying to... All right. NAP. We agreed to a contract, Isaac. What's going on? I thought our relationship was based on truth and about natural rights. I was asking a good question about Ancap, saying why won't everybody just choose to do the easiest jobs and there would be nobody left to do the hard work? There's many answers to that question. One of the main answer is the idea that people usually don't do hard jobs because they're rewarded appropriately. It can happen, but with hard jobs, very often comes prestige. Like, for example, the hard job of being a doctor. There was this teacher who asked, all right, guys, if you were paid the same wage, if you were paid minimum wage, would you still be a doctor? And many doctors said, yes, I would. Because the whole thing is they're doctors because they want to be doctors. They want to help people, not because they want to make a lot of money, usually. And there's also prestige that comes to it, right? It's like everybody who says, "Oh my God, the wage for McDonald's is higher than mine." That's ridiculous. So why don't you go work at McDonald's? Oh, so you mean that you do your job because you somewhat maybe like your job, or because that job fucking sucks, or because there's a prestige that comes with your job that doesn't come with McDonald's, or there's benefits, blah 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 blah. The thing is, a lot of people do their jobs because I believe they either like it or because they have a calling for it. If they don't, which is very often the case, another thing Ancap would do is make the conditions for jobs a lot better. Obviously, when your job, let's think of any of everybody's jobs here and think it's not motivated by squeezing out profit as much as possible. The goal now is not to squeeze profit out of everything, but now it's just to deliver the service that, or the commodities that your job now does. Also, another thing is a lot of jobs will be actually decimated by taking down the capitalist part of the economy. For example, marketing and a lot of overlapping competition that is not really needed, and things like that. Another thing, one last thing, is automation would be a big part of the answer to that as well. The whole idea that right now, well, automation is amazing, and I'm not against automation. No socialist should be against automation. And right now, we're not necessarily funding as much in automation than we could because it's just not profitable. Very often, it's cheaper to hire minimum wage workers than it is to invest in machinery that can automate stuff. But the thing is, if we make our investments for making profits, if we don't make our investments to make profits, but we make our investments to make life easier for everyone and make everyone happier in the process, then automation for human use instead of automation for profit, not human use, but human development instead of for profit, is another answer. And I think like one last answer is, if it's a need, people will do it. So for example, trash collection. If there's trash collection that is, the trash is piling up, nobody's doing it because nobody wants to be a trash collector, eventually the community will get together. Someone will do the job. Someone will do the job. Nobody wants to live in trash city. Especially when people are alleviated from the pressures of capitalism, especially when, hopefully, through the alleviation of pressures of capitalism, the community gets stronger together, bonds more, then people will take care of the community and will be willing to give time to do it. That's not even considering the fact that work days are going to be shorter. People will have more time to spend within their community to make their communities better, blah, 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 blah. And all of that. But a lot of jobs will also just stop being, stop existing. I think one that will stop existing, if I'm talking as if it's going to happen, one that will stop existing is fast food restaurants. I think those kind of, like, the conditions of workers is not necessarily the greatest, and not a lot of workers would continue to work in fast food restaurants if it wasn't for their need to feed themselves and work for a boss, right? I think if everybody's needs are met, not a lot of people will work in a fast food restaurant. That being said, if there was a need for a fast food restaurant and people really want McDonald's again, then they would need to work by their own volition or from their own volition at the McDonald's. You shouldn't have to threaten people to work at the McDonald's for your own pleasure, with the threat of starvation and homelessness for you to have McDonald's. If you have McDonald's, it's gonna be because people want to offer McDonald's. If not, then maybe you don't deserve McDonald's, because you shouldn't have McDonald's only through the fact that some people have the threat of starvation and homelessness to work at McDonald's. Friends, Isaac has told me we've made the contract that if I watched a video, he would stop talking. He would stop chatting. He would stop, at the very least, talking about Ancap, anarcho-capitalism, because he's fucking annoying about it. Now, he hasn't respected the terms of our contract, because he keeps talking about Ancap and Ancapistan and stuff like that in chat, even though he said he would shut the fuck up forever. And you know what sucks for Isaac is that I have authority over him. And I can fucking ban him. Doesn't that suck, Isaac? But I own the means of production in chat. And I am the tyrant here. But that's my natural right. It's non-aggression principle. It's me just respecting the terms of the contract. There's nothing authoritarian about it. I'm very happy that we're able to make this exchange, to freely make this exchange in the marketplace of idea. Maybe one day I'll unban you. I don't even know if I can.